This payment is confirmed on the Prism of Sennacherib, although he claims to have received 800 talents of silver. Despite this payment, the messengers of the Assyrian king stationed themselves in front of the walls of Jerusalem, mocking Jehovah God and threatening his holy city. The Prism records how Sennacherib subdued several cities of the kingdom of Judah, but it does not mention that he did the same with Jerusalem. Why? The answer is found in chapter 37, verses 33 and 34 of the book of the prophet Isaiah. The biblical account narrates that, through Isaiah, who was in Jerusalem, Jehovah said this about Sennacherib: "He shall not enter this city, nor shoot an arrow there, nor come before it with a shield, nor cast up a mound against it. By the way that he came, by the same shall he return. And into this city he shall not come, saith the Lord." Did Jehovah stop Sennacherib as promised? Of course. On that same night, the angel of God struck down 185,000 Assyrians. Sennacherib withdrew and returned to Nineveh, where sometime later 2 of his own sons killed him while he was bowing before his god Nisroch. Several attempts have been made to explain the death of the 185,000 Assyrian soldiers, suggesting the possibility of an epidemic, such as the bubonic plague or another contagious disease. The first-century Jewish historian Flavius Josephus cites the priest and historian Berossus, who says that Sennacherib, after his expedition to Egypt, returned to Jerusalem, where he found his troops, commanded by Rabshakeh, in great danger because of the plague. God sent them a disease that, on the first night they besieged the city, killed 185,000 soldiers, including their captains and centurions. The Prism of Sennacherib does not record any of this, but the usual boastful tone in the inscriptions of the Assyrian sovereigns would make it very difficult for Sennacherib to record such a defeat. On the other hand, the historian Herodotus mentions that during the night, a swarm of field mice gnawed at the quivers, bows, and armlets of the shields, completely incapacitating Sennacherib's army for military action. The David inscription Tel Dan Stele, the Bible describes David as a man after God's heart and as a king who reigned for 40 years, firmly establishing the city of David and the Israelite kingdom, which was inherited by his son Solomon. For archaeologists, however, the record is not so clear. Observing the evidence from excavations in modern Israel, some experts argued that the Bible greatly exaggerates David's historical significance, even suggesting that he was merely a myth, a heroic fiction, or a nationalist folktale. However, after decades of debate, new discoveries affirm the historicity of David. This growing body of evidence, ranging from monumental inscriptions to the remains of ancient buildings, solidly supports the biblical account. The first breakthrough occurred in 1993, when a team led by archaeologist Abraham Biran discovered a stone fragment in Tel Dan, in northern Israel, with an inscription that reads House of David. The inscription is in ancient Semitic and dates from the 9th century BC, indicating that it was part of a monument that the Arameans built to flaunt their victories over Israel. An article published in Bible History Daily affirmed that, although some doubted the inscription House of David, the majority of Bible scholars and archaeologists accepted without difficulty that the Tel Dan Stele is the first solid proof that King David of the Bible is a historical character. The Mesha Stele Moabite stone, the Moabite stone, also known as the Mesha Stele, is a black basalt monument just over a meter high with Moabite writing. It dates from the year 835 BC and was found in August 1868 by the German missionary Frederick Augustus Klein in the lands of ancient Moab in Deepen, Jordan. It is exactly 124 centimeters high, 79 centimeters wide, and 36 centimeters thick. The stele refers to biblical characters such as the Israelite king Omri and the Moabite king Mesha. The inscription of 34 lines, the most extensive recovered from ancient Moab, was written in the Paleo-Hebrew alphabet and commissioned by Mesha as a record and memorial of his victories in the revolt against the kingdom of Israel, which he undertook after the death of the ruler Ahab. In the second book of Kings, chapter 3, verses 4 and 5, we read, "Then Mesha, king of Moab, a breeder of sheep, paid the king of Israel 100,000 lambs and 100,000 rams with their wool. But when Ahab died, the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. As mentioned, King Mesha of Moab erected the Moabite Stele in honor of his god Chemosh, to commemorate the occasion when he freed himself from the domination of Israel. He claims that this domination lasted 40 years and was allowed by Chemosh due to his anger against the land. Generally, it is believed that this Moabite revolt is related to the events narrated in the 3rd chapter of the 2nd book of Kings. On the monument, Mesha boasts of his religiosity, claiming to have built cities, made a road, and obtained victory over Israel, attributing all the credit to his god Chemosh. As expected, Mesha's defeat and the sacrifice of his own son, which are reported in the Bible, are omitted in the inscription, where Mesha glorifies himself. Many of the places that Mesha claims to have captured are mentioned in the Bible, among them Medeba, Ataroth, Nebo, and Jahaz. Thus, the stele supports the accuracy of the biblical accounts. It is exceptional that Mesha used the tetragrammaton YHWH, the name of the God of Israel, which some Bible translations render as Yahweh or Jehovah, in line 18 of the inscription. Mesha declares, "I took from there the vessels of Yahweh and dragged them before Chemosh outside the Bible." This is probably the oldest record of the use of the divine name. The Cylinder of Cyrus, known today as the Cylinder of Cyrus, this ancient document is recognized as the world's first document of human rights. It is translated into the 6 official languages of the United Nations, and its provisions are analogous to the first 4 articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Cylinder of Cyrus is a document issued by Cyrus the Great, consisting of a clay cylinder with inscriptions in Akkadian cuneiform writing. The cylinder was created in 539 BC by order of Cyrus the Great when he captured Babylon from Nabonidus, ending the Neo-Babylonian Empire. It was found in 1879 by a British museum expedition in the Temple of the god Marduk in Babylon, in present-day Iraq. The piece is covered by 45 lines of Akkadian cuneiform writing, celebrating Cyrus's conquest of the city. Currently, it is on display at the British Museum in London. This cylinder is known for its historical importance and its relationship with the events narrated in the Bible, specifically in the context of the return of the Jews to Jerusalem after the Babylonian captivity. Some key points about the Cylinder of Cyrus include: in content of the inscription on the cylinder is a decree attributed to Cyrus the Great, which grants freedom to various peoples conquered by the Babylonians. In particular, it mentions the liberation of the Jews who were taken into captivity in Babylon by Nebuchadnezzar. Liberation of the Jews. The Cylinder of Cyrus is considered an important archaeological testimony of Cyrus the Great's policies and the religious tolerance of the Persians. This cylinder records Cyrus' policy of allowing conquered peoples to return to their homelands and restore their places of worship. In the case of the Jews, this aligns with the biblical narrative in the book of Ezra, chapter 1, verses 1 to 4, which mentions that Cyrus issued an edict allowing the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. This edict resembles the policy reflected in the Cylinder of Cyrus. For the Jews, this document is especially significant because it supports the idea of a permitted return to Jerusalem and the restoration of the temple, which are fundamental events in their history. Let us see what is written in Ezra, chapter 1, verses 1 to 4. In the 1st year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, who made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and also in writing, saying, Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia, The Lord God of heaven hath given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he hath charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is there among you of all his people? His God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord God of Israel. He is the God which is in Jerusalem. And whosoever remaineth in any place where he sojourneth, let the men of his place help him with silver, and with gold, and with goods, and with beasts. besides the freewill offerings for the house of God that is in Jerusalem. The cylinder, the biblical texts, and the accounts of the historian Herodotus provide firm evidence that Cyrus was tolerant in his campaigns, both with the Jewish people, allowing them to return, and with the Babylonian population, whose gods and temples he respected. In 2004, at the southern end of Jerusalem, a sewage pipe burst. Consequently, the municipality sent construction workers to repair the damage. However, when this happened in the city of David, not only builders were sent but also archaeologists. They monitored the excavations and realized that something was. They sent everyone away and revealed a series of ancient stone steps, thousands of years old, leading to the Pool of Siloam. The Pool of Siloam, located in the southern part of the city of David and in the area of the Jerusalem Walls National Park, is an archaeological and historical site of national and international importance. The pool was first built about 2,700 years ago as part of Jerusalem's water supply system in the 6th century BC during the reign of King Hezekiah, as described in the Bible in the second book of Kings, chapter 20, verse 20. As for the other acts of Hezekiah and all his might, and how he made the pool and the aqueduct and brought water into the city, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah? The Pool of Siloam served as a reservoir for the waters of the Gihon spring, which were diverted through an underground water tunnel, becoming one of the most important areas of Jerusalem at the time of the First Temple. Due to its location and importance, the Pool of Siloam was renovated and expanded 2,000 years ago at the end of the Second Temple period. It is believed that millions of pilgrims used it as a ritual bath before ascending to the temple through the city of David. According to the Gospel of John, it was in the Pool of Siloam that Jesus healed the blind man. Let us read in John, chapter 9, verse 11. He answered and said, "A man that is called Jesus made clay and anointed mine eyes, and said unto me, Go to the Pool of Siloam and wash. And I went and washed, and I received sight." The discovery of the Pool of Siloam represents a turning point in the field of biblical archaeology. The American newspaper Los Angeles Times reported on this remarkable discovery. Scholar James Hamilton Charlesworth of Princeton Theological Seminary and New Testament specialist commented, "Scholars said there was no such Pool of Siloam and that John was using religious fantasy to explain the matter. Now we have found the Pool of Siloam exactly where John said it was. A gospel believed to be pure theology now turns out to be based on history," he stated on August 9, 2005. Thus, this is an extraordinary example of the historical accuracy of the Bible, refuting the opinion of many skeptics who considered the Pool of Siloam a religious invention. The Hittite Tablets. The Bible was questioned for many years by those who claimed that it mentioned names of people and places that never existed, including the nation of the Hittites, a people of legend that only appeared in the Old Testament. This changed when, at the end of the 19th century, the first concrete traces emerged, culminating in 1906, when Hugo Winkler discovered 10,000 clay tablets that documented the history of the Hittite nation. It was also discovered that this area was the capital of the Hittite nation. The Old Testament refers to them as Hittites in the Almeida Corrigita version. Some known references among more than 50 are found in Joshua, where the confederation of peoples, including the Hittites, is mentioned in their struggle against Israel. Let us read in Joshua, chapter 11, verse 3. "And to the Canaanites on the east and on the west, and to the Amorites, and the Hittites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Jebusites in the mountains, and to the Hivites under Hermon in the land of Mizpeh." David's army included Hittites among its ranks. Let us read in the first book of Samuel, chapter 26, verse 6. "Then said David to Ahimelech the Hittite, and to Abishai the son of Zeruiah, brother to Joab, saying, Who will go down with me to Saul to the camp? And Abishai said, I will go down with thee." The Hittites are also mentioned during the time of King Joram, son of Ahab. Let us read in the second book of Kings, chapter 7, verse 6. The Bible was questioned for many years by those who claimed that it mentioned names of people and places that never existed, including the nation of the Hittites, a people of legend that only appeared in the Old Testament. This changed at the end of the 19th century, when concrete evidence emerged. In 1906, Hugo Winkler discovered 10,000 clay tablets that documented the history of the Hittite nation. This discovery confirmed the existence of the Hittites, who were previously considered a biblical invention. The Old Testament mentions the Hittites in several contexts. For example, in Joshua chapter 11, verse 3. And to the Canaanites on the east and on the west, and to the Amorites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Jebusites in the mountains, and to the Hivites under Hermon in the land of Mizpeh. David's army included Hittites among its ranks, as noted in the first book of Samuel, chapter 26, verse 6. Then said David to Ahimelech the Hittite, and to Abishai the son of Zeruiah, brother to Joab, saying, Who will go down with me to Saul to the camp? And Abishai said, I will go down with thee. The Hittites are also mentioned during the time of King Joram, son of Ahab, as seen in the second book of Kings, chapter 7, verse 6. For the Lord had made the host of the Syrians to hear a noise of chariots and a noise of horses, even the noise of a great host. And they said one to another, Lo, the king of Israel hath hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of the Egyptians to come upon us. When Bedřich Rosny deciphered their writing in 1915, it opened up historical knowledge about the customs, laws, commerce, and more of a people previously known only through biblical mentions. This discovery further substantiated the Bible's historical accuracy. The Deir-al-Ala Inscription. According to the Book of Numbers, chapters 22 to 24, Balaam, son of Beor, was hired as a prophet. His name appears in 8 different books of the Bible, including letters from Christian writers Peter and Jude. Balaam lived in the 15th century BC in the upper Euphrates Valley and was hired by Balak, king of Moab, to curse the nation of Israel. The question arises, was Balaam a historical figure or merely a Jewish invention? In 1966, a Dutch archaeological expedition at Tel Deir-al-Ala in Jordan uncovered inscriptions on pieces of plaster. One of these inscriptions refers to Balaam, son of Beor, a well-known biblical character. The inscriptions, meticulously collected and photographed with infrared technology, were sent to the Central Research Laboratory for Art and Science Objects in Amsterdam for restoration, translation, and interpretation at the Palestinian Archaeological Institute of Leiden University. The inscriptions date back to about 800 BC, with a margin of error of approximately 70 years. From the plaster fragments, experts reconstructed 2 groups of inscriptions, which are currently displayed at the Archaeological Museum of Amman in Jordan. Although the text has been partially reconstructed, one inscription, written in red, identifies Balaam as a seer of the gods. The text indicates that Balaam had a divine vision in dreams, warning of a catastrophe sent by the goddess Shagar. The gods spoke to Balaam, who then conveyed the message of impending doom. It is noteworthy that the Deir-al-Ala inscriptions echo the expressions found in Balaam's oracles in the biblical narrative. For instance, the inscription reads Balaam, son of Beor, aligning with Numbers, chapter 22, verse 5. Therefore he sent messengers unto Balaam the son of Beor to Pethor, which is by the river of the land of the children of his people, to call him, saying, Behold, there is a people come out from Egypt. Behold, they cover the face of the earth, and they abide over against me. The inscription reflects the religious vision of the region and provides historical reference outside the Bible from the 8th century BC, confirming the historical presence of Balaam. This implies that the biblical characters related to Balaam, such as Balak, Moses, Joshua, and many others, are also indirectly recognized. Esteemed listeners, these inscriptions are significantly closer in time to the events described in the Bible than the oldest manuscripts currently available. They serve as further proof that the Bible presents a reliable account of ancient history. As stated in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 16 and 17, all Scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. Thus we reach the end of this video. I hope it has been enlightening and informative. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.